Welcome everybody to the April 5th Town Council Informational Work Session. Let the record read that the entire council, to include the mayor, are present. One second. Okay. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States
of America and to the republic
which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and
justice for all.
Amen. Okay, thank you very much. First item, we have appointing Jan Ruckey to the Planning and Zoning Board. Typically, what we do is we ask a candidate to submit a resume. You know, maybe the council doesn't know them, but Jan really needs no introduction, no resume. We all know, Jan well. Volunteered to the town last 30 years, town council, board of appeals. Were you on planning and zoning once, Jan?
No, I wasn't, Pat.
Okay, but Chuck was. Yeah, between you and Chuck, I think you had all the boards covered at one point in time, And Jan is currently a member of the Board of Appeals. If she is appointed to planning and zoning, she will resign from the Board of Appeals, and I'll find somebody to fill her seat over there. But before I give it to Jan to have her say something about herself, I just was excited that she wanted to step up, because for what I know of Jan for many decades now is that she's a hard worker. She likes to get things done. Nothing's going to straddle with her. She's very fair, and I think right now with the the workload that planning and zoning has ahead of them, it's a really great time for somebody who wants to work as hard as she does to step up. So having said that, Jan, you want to give us a little 2-minute about yourself, and we'll hand it off to the council?
Yeah, I'll be glad to. Thank you, Pat. I had 40-year career in real estate, sales, management, and ownership. When I was on town council, which I think was 2009, I took the full smart growth plan that I think just had come out at that time, and it was fabulous. Very, very exciting at the time. It's still exciting in my mind. I've been on a lot of different committees. I have a lot of different interests. I think when the moratorium discussion came up, what struck me was how much that comprehensive plan needed to get done for the town to move forward. And I thoroughly enjoy working with people, collaborating, but it has to have that component. There has to be an end, that you need to get everybody's input, and then you need to make a decision and move forward. And I just hope that I can help with that. That's my plan.
Thanks, Jan. It sounds like a good plan. Let me, the council usually likes to, ask you a question. So I'll start with Derek.
All right. Hey, Jan. Good to see you.
Hi, Derek. You too.
First question, I think, is really more for Holly. Could you give us the construct of the Planning and Zoning Commission right now? Is there just the one vacancy, or is this the only vacancy we're considering?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess really you already alluded to it, Jan. I was really just curious why you were interested in coming off of appeals and onto planning and zoning. I know I've worked with you for a number of years on our committees, and I know you're a hard worker and you have the town's best interest in mind. So I definitely can support it. I was just really more curious in your motivation to move from one to the other.
Well, that's a fair question. When I went on Board of Appeals, I don't think there had been cases for like 2 years. And then we had a couple of cases, and we have a couple of more coming up, but I wanted more to sink my teeth into. I didn't want just a few, one here and one there. I wanted more work, I guess is what I'm saying. I wanted something more to sink my teeth into and to engage me more, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And as knowing you as I do, I certainly understand that. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. Keith?
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Jan. How are you? Really
I'm well,
appreciate.
Keith.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. I'm really glad that you're running. I know there's a lot of work ahead for the planning and zoning, and I know you're, as Derek and the mayor have already said, a very hard worker, and you're very impassioned about what you do, and you care a lot about the town, and so I think it's a great thing. I really don't have any additional questions. It seems like we were just approving you to be on the appeals board a few months ago, so so I don't really have any more questions. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Keith. Greg?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, thank you. My comments are really for everybody here, this body. Jan's reputation precedes her. All of us know her. I've known her a long time myself. Fully capable, and under normal circumstances, it's really a no-brainer for somebody like Jan Rudke to be involved and appointed to any number of boards in town, or council for that matter. I'm a little concerned about, I don't know, the outfall, if there is any, to adding somebody at this juncture to planning and zoning. Somebody got their noise on in the background. Can you please mute yourself? I don't, we've all been following planning and zoning pretty closely, I think. And I think that several of us were aware that there was a vacancy, and it's certainly the prerogative of the mayor and in this town to fully board, if you will, that commission board there. I just want us to reflect and think about, well, here's a question for Jan. Jan, if you're the vote, that if you're the swing, end up being a swing vote on the commission that keeps developers from getting what they want, and I'm not expecting you to answer that, but that's really kind of where my only concern is coming from. Is a perception of that some of them are on the call right now, and people may question why we're going to add somebody at this point. And again, I'll restate, it's certainly our prerogative to add somebody. And if it was anybody else, I would probably have a strong objection to adding somebody at this point. Being that it's Jan, I know there's a lot of pluses that come from adding Jan. It's just something for us to think about there. And conversely, what if she ends up being a swing vote that gives the developers larger buildings? And in the end of all of this, how does that look to our constituents and the people that have been following along? I know we're appointing for solid reasons, and we want to make sure that we gather those reasons together prior to actually voting her officially in, I presume, at the next council meeting. And again, her reputation precedes her. Nobody can question Ms. Rutke's commitment, can they? I know that the commissioners could probably use some help, some of Jan's talent in managing Chris and reeling him in a little bit. I think that's one of the issues that we've had with this taking as long as it has. The commissioners are the only ones that vote. They live in town, and if they differ and their vote differs from what Chris wants to do, well, I'm sorry, Chris. The commissioners have voted, and we need to incorporate that and move on. I know I have a lot of respect for Chris and our processes. And
Mr. Morris, if I will, okay, we're bordering on the line of really not, being inappropriate. We need to focus on Jan Rucky, not opinions about people that are on a certain board. And we certainly can't ask her how she would vote on a certain issue. But I will help you out and tell you that, as we made a commitment last meeting to a 9-month moratorium, which the council agreed to. As a leader of this town, I saw it necessary to, and I feel strong about this, is to add a good worker to that group that gets things done. And that's what we have right here. So if that will help you, but the question really here is to be, what you may have of Jan. She gave an introduction and opinions on the board or the town planner and all this other stuff. Developers, that's just it's not appropriate, sir. So let's try to stick to the subject matter if we
Well,
can.
I understand, and I agree with most of what you said there. I was going to ask before I spoke if there was a more appropriate time to have these type of discussions. And I'm not asking any questions from Jan. It's just really for all of us to think about. And I see how strongly you feel about it, Mr. Mayor. And I just want us to think about that a little bit. And we all want planning and zoning to succeed, and we want to get this completed this year. And I know that Jan has skills that can help. So I guess that's really all I have to say. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Larry.
Jan, thank you for stepping forward. It's a critical point, obviously, in what's going on in planning and zoning. I think filling out the commission for the full 6 members is a great idea, even this late in the game. They've got an awful lot ahead of them to finalize that comprehensive plan. And with your experience in past town business, I know you're going to be a true asset to them. So thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Charlie.
Thank you, Larry.
Hey, Jan. Yeah, I would echo what everyone said here in terms of certainly, your qualifications to do this. And my concern is that it's going to take time away from your work on the Walkable Community Committee. And so I'll be keeping my eye on that. But I really appreciate you stepping up and looking forward to having your input on the committee.
Are you afraid I'm going to be a slacker on walkability?
No, you're not.
Okay, very good. Let the record read that Valerie Bodine is not present at this meeting. So thank you, Jan. We're going to move on with the rest of our meeting. I appreciate you just stepping up.
Have a good evening, y'all.
See you now.
Bye.
Next, we have flood action plan. Holly, you want to take that?
Sorry, I just realized I was muted. Chris, are you on the call? I'm not seeing you on the list if you are. Okay. Mayor, I apologize. Chris was actually going to join us for this meeting, but I'm not seeing him here. So I'll just cover basically what Chris is looking for with the town. We have a grant with DNR. It's our Coastal Community Resilience Grant, and it's in partnership with the town of North Beach. This grant is set in 2 phases, a phase 1 and a phase 2. We're basically have moved through phase 1 of this grant, and now we're moving into the phase 2 portion of funding, which requires basically an endorsement from town council on the sea level rise action plan framework, which Chris has itemized here in his memorandum to town council, and he has included the draft action framework below for your review.
Okay. So Holly, this will be on the agenda in 2 weeks.
That's correct.
The council take action. Okay, very good. Any comments? I'll start with Charlie.
The only question I have is a process question on this. So this will be on the agenda and we will vote on the action plan, or will there be a resolution that says we support this action plan dated October? How does that work?
Right. It would basically be a resolution that is saying that the town council endorses and supports the action plan set forth. It's just a confirmation that DNR requires as part of our grant funding.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I have nothing further other than I support that resolution in principle based on this plan 100%. So.
Right. Thank you. Larry.
Several comments. One is this couldn't have come, well, I was going to say couldn't have come at a better time. Maybe it could have come a little bit earlier, because where we are in the comprehensive plan, this study is going to be critical to some of the elements of what's going to be in that comprehensive plan. I strongly endorse this, not only as a council member, but as chair of the Climate Change Advisory Group. And indeed, I noticed in Mr. Kubiak's letter, they talk about EFC planning to set up site visits to see existing conditions firsthand. And if there's anything that the Climate Change Advisory Group can do to help with those visits, we'd be happy to do so. And then the only other note I wanted to make is I looked at the agenda for the North Beach Council, which meets this Thursday. This item is on their agenda for next Thursday. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Larry. Greg?
Yeah, thank you. I presume does anybody know where North Beach is on this? It seems like maybe they're a couple weeks ahead of us and kind of delving into this. Are they more or less acceptance of all the terms in the outline? Did they not have any questions? Does anybody know?
Yes, my understanding is that they are in acceptance, that the two towns have been working together jointly on this in the entirety. So this was formulated together.
Yeah, I saw where we were collaborating. I always like to see that. Well, I guess to keep it short, in the end of it, there's some appendices, data methods and maps and graphs that weren't attached. Can we get those copies of those? Just
These items will be developed as part of the plan.
okay, so they're not in existence right now, the appendices? Okay.
That's correct.
I guess that's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Keith?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a point of clarification. I know we've talked about this previously a little bit. And just for everybody else out there, just so they understand what this is, it is an outline of what is to be delivered. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And then there's also mention of some funding in the amount of $75,000. Is that the total amount of funding that will be coming for the development of this?
Yes, that's correct. That's the second phase. The first phase was $40,000. So that's phase 2.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And lastly, Derek?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I obviously strongly support the collaboration with North Beach and DNR on this. My question was going to be really to Larry and ask if your committee was involved in this or had plans to be involved in this. And I already heard the answer, so I have no further questions. Thanks.
All right, thanks. Next item, special events. I'll wait till Holly changes the.
Sure.
I'm good.
Great, thanks. So we'll just talk through this.
Okay, I was going to lead off, Holly.
Oh, good, great, thank you.
Sure. Okay. Given where we are, in the pandemic and events that we enjoy so much, but it's a different time. I wanted to have this discussion this evening. When I pulled up the news this morning, I happened to read that in the Baltimore Sun, they said that the Maryland Department of Health just announced, I guess this would have been yesterday, just announced 1,669 new COVID cases in Maryland, 8 new deaths. So while everybody, wants to go out and have a good time and be normal and, all of that, we hear it all day long. We're really in the thick of this thing. And, for 1 or 2 of these events, they would qualify as a super spreader. And I don't really think anybody, wants us to, initiate or facilitate a super spreader. So, I asked Holly to, work on this, and Holly, I'll just give you the ball.
Sure, thank you, Mayor. So basically every year Town Council is provided a list of special events that we plan for the year through our general fund budgeting process. Obviously, we know there's great impacts to the 2020 calendar year with our special events. So we're looking at this year and making plans, trying to focus on events that are safe and engage the community together. So we had a great event, I think, for Easter, where Carla, she's on the call now, coordinated to have some backdrops around town where families, friends, neighbors could join together and take images. So we're trying to just find easy, safe ways to involve the community as best as possible. An upcoming event that we're working on right now is the Stars and Stripes. festival, that actually we're trying to do a hybrid event for Stars and Stripes, where we'll have a portion in person, distanced, and then record segments as well, along with some engagement of our citizens. So we're working through Stars and Stripes, but the most pressing matter, I think at this time, is really our decision on our Independence Day fireworks celebration. This event attracts over 4,000 out-of-town guests to Chesapeake Beach. And unfortunately, it does not allow for a lot of contingency planning. We have to basically, our only location to place this event is in the water due to the restrictions of the type of display. We have such a large display, it requires at least 560-foot circular clearance in all directions from any property, car, any dwelling. So really in the location of where we are in the water requires a 135-day permitting process with the Coast Guard. So we've spoken with the Coast Guard, and they're basically allowing us this week to really give them an understanding on how we're going to move forward with this event if we plan to. So it's really a pivotal time to really understand where we stand with the Independence Day celebration. We did speak with the health department as well, and they did, caution us that they're following the changing environment with the variants right now, and really couldn't give us a lot of advice other than we really need to make sure we have contingency planning. So that's really the challenge for Independence Day. And Mayor, if you wanted me to elaborate on any other events specifically, I could.
I think we can just finish up with the fact that we don't have any moonlight cruises, and I guess we're waiting to see with the taste of the beaches.
Right.
And as is outlined in your memo, I mean, we said this last year, it didn't happen. We obviously could, if all of a sudden things become better, all of a sudden, we could consider having fireworks as part of the Taste of the Beaches event. And that's just something that we could keep in our back pocket like we did last year. It just unfortunately did not happen. So yeah, Holly, thanks. I think you summed up our concerns for the, summer, if you will. And given where we are and all of this, I wanted to hear from the council because when, I've got a big decision to make very soon. So Derek, let me just hear what you got to say.
All right, yeah, actually, it's that last point you made that I want to drill down on a little bit. Certainly understand the logic with the Independence Day fireworks and the reasons why it's would be challenging to do. I understand that, and certainly appreciate the comments from the other folks who are engaged in that process, the mayor of North Beach, as well as the Captain Naughton. But you mentioned fireworks as part of Taste the Beaches. Taste the Beaches in October. Am I correct, Larry?
It's September.
September? Okay.
Yes, September.
So with the 135-day permitting requirement, it essentially gives us 2 months,
right,
to see if we can, pull something off. So if for instance, if we were able to pursue that, I mean, we have a contract right now with a vendor for the fireworks. Would we use the same contract for September that we do, or would we have to go back out to bid?
I'm pretty certain we could change the date. We have some flexibility in our contract, so I don't believe we need to go back out to bid.
Okay, that's good to know. So I'd like to keep that option open. I know, Mayor, you said, you feel the same way, but it would really be a boost to the community if we could do something like this safely this year, and coming figuratively and literally coming out of the pandemic and having a safe celebration like this in town this year. That would be I think a boost to the community, and for a lot of reasons. So yeah, I'd like to keep that open, but I certainly understand the logic of having to postpone the July fireworks again. That's my only comment.
Thank you. Keith.
Yeah, appreciate it. No, that seems reasonable. I mean, we're definitely not out of the woods with respect to COVID. looking forward to getting my first shot through work this week. But I know there's lots and lots of people yet who, if they're going to get it, need to get it. And like you said, I hear the number of cases are increasing right now. So I don't think it would be prudent to plan to have such an event in July. Yeah, I'm certainly open to, trying something in September if we can, but we'll just have to play it by ear, as you've already said. So thank you.
Indeed. And Greg?
I got my first shot, the Pfizer, this morning. I'll be brief, but I'll start with the end. We definitely I'm in favor of keeping open, Taste the Beach in however capacity. We may want to even consider like early October if we see things, if it helps us to capture an event and have it go off, I think it's worthwhile. But otherwise, the writing's on the wall. I'm in favor of not having the fireworks. I know we all hate that. We're an events town. We like to draw tourism here. And it's just, we're everybody's in a bad situation with that. But I think the writing is on the wall. I saw where I wanted to mention that Mayor Benton had requested the town not hold the event. He requested the town not hold the fireworks every year. So I wanted to say that, but I'm in favor of canceling the fireworks. I don't like it. It would be nice to capture an event at the end of the year if it's safe. Thanks.
Indeed. Thank you. Larry?
Given the comments that we have already received from various people, including the Sheriff's Department, Mayor North Beach, and somewhat fuzzy recommendation from the County Health Department, I really don't see how we could possibly go forward with having the fireworks this year. One of the things that caught my eye, though, was the upfront deposit of $40,000. These funds are non-refundable. Why is that?
I'll let Holly answer, but that's in the contract, but I'll let Holly elaborate.
I would say that, so last year we did pay the deposit and we're holding that deposit. They're going to apply that to our next event. So we have a deposit it's that they already ordered our fireworks. We're not going to receive that money back. However, they are going to apply it to our next
Okay,
fireworks display.
so it's not a matter that we forfeit the $40,000. We just roll it forward to some future event. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. And then finally on Taste the Beaches, I obviously totally support that as sort of the originator of that event, and I'd be happy to provide any assistance. I do think it would be prudent on our part to at least begin some preliminary planning for that event, just to make sure we've got some things lined up, but we obviously would have to proceed with caution. And any discussions with anybody would have to include an upfront phrase that we might cancel the whole event, but I think it would be prudent on our part just to proceed with some preliminary planning. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Charlie?
I have a couple follow-ups, but I wanted to ask, before I state some of the obvious points, I wanted to just ask a follow-up question from Holly, I think, which is just on the 40 grand deposit. We're not talking then even about throwing good money after bad this year. You're talking about last year's deposit's going to carry forward.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. Okay, good. That's good. I didn't realize that. I thought part of the pain point of making the decision now was you didn't want to put that money down and then lose it again. So I didn't realize that we had.
Right. And sorry, just to clarify, so we did pay the deposit towards the display. We did not pay the deposit towards the barges. So there, if we did set it, that deposit would be required. And I don't know if I would get that back just because of the way that their scheduling is and the wording in our contract along that. So I just to clarify the two different vendors.
Okay, thanks. That I thought that, yeah, that makes sense. And given the attitude, given the reality of what they're probably dealing with, they're probably not likely to want to give any money back. They don't have to. So that could be a challenge. But anyway, I think everyone's been, it's pretty obvious. We can't, it's just the optics of actually moving forward and having the event on the calendar makes no sense at this time. It would not look good. I'd love to see us focus, if it's Taste the Beaches, I'd love to see us focus on making that event more than Taste the Beaches has been in the past. That's not belittling Taste the Beaches, but really focusing that on like a reopening event. Whether the money is best spent on fireworks or whether the budget could be just as well spent on a smaller fireworks display, but maybe some other things, additional venues, more partnering with North Beach, something that could almost be marketed as a reopen the beaches, which has a nice business development concept message to it, but also does more than just that party. And maybe by late September, we'd be there. So if we do any planning for that event, we might want to think about that. Otherwise, I certainly support the decisions that we are unfortunately choosing to make at this time.
Thank you, Charlie. Okay,
Mr. Mayor?
next. Yes,
Mr. Mayor, if I may, one brief follow-up question for Holly.
please.
Thank you. Holly, if we were unfortunate enough to have to cancel again, and we weren't able to cobble together a successful Taste of Beaches, that deposit, would that apply to next year?
Yes, we would have to pay probably a slight storage fee for the materials, but yes, we would be able to carry it forward.
Great, thank you.
All right, thanks. Okay, budgets. I think we're going to start with the utility fund. I think Holly has a summary she wants to share, and then we'll hand it over to Dale. Is that
Yeah.
right, Holly?
That's correct. Let me just
Okay.
slide. Okay, so just some key messages for the utility fund before we go into the details. There's no utility rate increase being proposed in this budget. And we have no increase to our Appendix A fees, connection fees. The connection fee revenue is covering our infrastructure costs, which is really accomplishing a consistent goal of the town council. FY20 connection fee surplus. So our current year surplus from connection fees is being allocated to the utility fund reserve for future infrastructure costs, which is also accomplishing a town council goal to continually balance that and use our connection fee funds to specifically go towards infrastructure costs. This budget also includes the installation and maintenance of a flow measuring device at our treatment plant. This flow measuring device has been something that we've talked about in previous town council meetings. Larry's spoke about it significantly, but this is going to help the town further and more accurately bill our partners at the water reclamation treatment plant. So that is included because that's actually on the town of Chesapeake Beach side. So it's specifically measuring Chesapeake Beach inflow. And then Dale, I will turn it over to you.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, would you like to
Yeah,
open it up for questions?
we've been going, do a page and then take council
Okay.
questions, that sort of thing? Yeah, okay. Go for it, sir. You just want to give a summary, or you just want to see the council?
Yeah, well, a lot of the highlights that Holly touched on really cover the summary. I would say just a couple of adds. When you compare the revenue year over year, you got to be careful a little bit because of the reserves or money being pulled from other accounts. This year, the way we have the fiscal year 22 budget built, we have a very low number in the reserve. So it looks like the revenue is going down. So, Mr. Mayor, that's my only other point over and above what Holly just discussed.
Okay, this is most of the council's, experienced with this. Starting with Charlie, any questions on the first page, Charlie?
Just this, I'm sure everyone else knows this except me, but the connection fee under revenue, the 270,000 and the 90,000, can you just tell me where that comes from? Is that for like Heritage when they pay for their connection fees, or where does that come from, and how do you know what that number is going to be?
Correct. We're budgeting 15 homes from the Heritage, and the sewer connection's 18,000 and the water is 6. So
Okay.
that's where those numbers come from.
That's both those numbers times that. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't have any other questions.
All right, thank you, sir. Larry?
A couple observations, maybe questions. I noticed when I look at the total revenues sewer in the 2022 budget, that's down about 2% from the budgeted for 21. The water revenues is essentially the same number. I was a little bit surprised at both those numbers. I know our tourism had been way down for the year and unfortunately might suffer again this coming year. But given the fact that people are spending a whole lot more time at home, I was a little bit surprised at the projections that that's actually going to either stay the same or might even decrease a little bit. Any comments on that?
Yeah, Larry, I looked real closely at what we had done for the first half, and that's what the projection is primarily based on, but then also looked at some data that you don't see because the fiscal year 21 was based on the first half. And just trending it out. And that's how we came up with the numbers.
But when I look at the first half of 21 at 336,000, if I basically double that, we're up at 672,000 then for 21 as opposed to a budget of 694. I'm just looking at the sewer.
Right. And so basically it's a little, I think we're saying the same thing. It's a little higher. You just thought it might be a little higher than it is, budgeted from fiscal year 22 to 21.
Actually, what I'm saying is if indeed we double the 21 from the first half through December 31st, it would be 672,000, whereas we're only budgeting six. Oh, I'm sorry. My math is away. Excuse me.
That's okay.
Never mind.
All right, thanks. Greg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dale, I have a question about the line item in other income, revenue used from general fund savings account.
No, it's good.
And in fiscal year 2020, it looks under the actuals. Does that mean that we needed 315,000 transferred from general fund savings in order to meet the expenses of the utility fund?
Correct.
Okay, I see for this year, I guess we're about halfway through. We've budgeted $500,000 is possibly being needed from the general fund. It's at zero right now. And I know it's the goal for the fund to stand on its own accord, but under fiscal 2022, you're projecting $188,000 from the general fund that we may need in order to balance this.
Okay, so for fiscal year 22, that $188,000 number is strictly for the 2014 ENR note. It's basically, it was my understanding, it was the desire of town council that we would continue to take money from the general fund to pay that ENR note. So that's what that's for fiscal year 22. In fiscal year 21, we budgeted $500,000 in revenue because our expenses were $500,000 higher. We were fortunate that we didn't have to dip into that money. It was, because it's on a timing issue, the expenses when they come in and when the revenue comes in. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, more or less. I see we haven't proposed any rate increases. Dale, do you agree that that the rates that we have set right now are appropriate for a healthy functioning fund?
Yes. I did some analysis and some comparisons to other municipalities, and the answer is yes from a rate perspective. And also, Holly touched on it in the opening comments. With the money that we're getting from the connection fees, we're able to cover our infrastructure costs. So we could be set for the next couple of years.
Well, regarding the connection fees, I know that you mentioned you're projecting maybe 15 from the Heritage. That's 15 taps, if you will, 24,000 each. There are
Correct.
gangs of outstanding taps that I know we're going to get paid. Some projects get built in however capacity they are. I don't know. That's probably a question for another time. I know they're valued at about 10% of what the current impact is projected to be. That's really an aside. So 24,000 times 15 there. Okay. I don't think I have any other questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Keith,
No additional questions. Thank you.
thank you. Derek?
Yeah, a couple things. So first, I want to elaborate on the response to Greg's question regarding the reserves from general fund. So you'll recall back in 2017 when we reworked the utility fund, we decided to start transferring money from the general fund each year to cover the ENR payment and then put the rest into a reserve with the intent to pay off debt. And so this year, the number pays the ENR principal, but it doesn't add any more to the reserves. So that's why you see the number different than before. So in the previous years, we would transfer over 500,000. We would use part of that to pay the principal on the ENR payment for the year. And then the rest would go into savings, which we used, you'll recall last year, to pay off one of the other debt service that we had. So that's why you see that number is different than this year. Did that make sense, Greg?
Yes, thank you for re-clarifying that.
Okay, and the other question, so Dale, you mentioned 15 connections. How many are you anticipating for fiscal year 22 from the Heritage and then other opportunities?
I would say a very optimistic number could be upwards close to 20 to 25. But, you know, obviously, it's hard to project 12 months out. And what we did in fiscal year 21 was the same approach I did in fiscal year 22 to take a conservative approach to it.
Right. And so the other point I wanted to make on that, you know, in 2017, you know, we set out to create a utility fund that didn't use connection fees to for keeping the rates low. What we wanted to do was use connection fee revenue and put it back into the system, you know, in the infrastructure, proactively, repairs, upgrades, what have you. And from what you said, Holly and Dale, you've done that. Those 15 connection fee revenues is going back into the system to either maintain or upgrade our infrastructure. It's not going to the rates. I mean, I know it's all connected, pardon the pun, in one way or another, but you know, we set a goal to have those, you know, into the future being used for infrastructure, and I'm happy to see that you were able to achieve that. So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Dale, you want to go to page 2?
Mr. Mayor?
Please.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
One
we're-
quick follow-up question
Okay, we're still on this budget. Go ahead.
on the first page.
Mhm.
Well, actually, I don't know, maybe I'm looking at the 5-year capital improvement project list for the utility, I guess it's utility fund. In fiscal year 2024, they're projecting, I guess, a Harbor Road well work. And then a couple years after that, Fishing Creek wet well. Are we taking into consideration the revenue that we'll need to cover those expenses?
We were going
We
to get to
haven't
this
done
last-
any. You're talking about specifically 24 and 26, fiscal years 24 and 26?
Yeah, that's $750,000 worth of work you got projected, capital improvements that need to happen utility wise. I was just wondering if we needed to consider those at all this year, or are we okay? Do we see the path okay for us?
Yeah, I see our path being okay based on us taking these connection fee surpluses and allocating them to the reserve. So that's not going to impact the reserve at all. But I mean, Greg, I think if they were, you know, much higher, I would have a concern, but not at 300,000 and 350.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. second page, Charlie, is that where we're going with that one? Or no, Derek, I'm sorry.
Well, I already kind of made my comment. I just want to point out the line in the debt service of the 188,542, which matches up with the line item on the income that we were just talking about. That shows the money from the general fund coming over to pay the principal on the ENR debt. So I just wanted to point that out to illustrate what I was saying before. Otherwise, I don't have any comments on the second page.
Okay, thank you. Keith?
Just one question on, let me find it again. Line repairs and maintenance. I was just curious why we were anticipating that to be $15,000 more. It's about right in the middle. It's $95,000.
95,000 for lines repair and maintenance. Inside of that includes 25,000 for the inline flow meter.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right, thank you. That's what I wanted to know. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you, Keith. Greg?
No questions, thank you.
All righty. Larry?
Couple of questions. One is second line item, water plant repair and maintenance. We had budgeted 435,000 in 21. As of halfway through the year, we only spent under 4,000, and we're only budgeting 15,000 in 22. What happened to that projected expenditure that justified the 435,000?
Larry, in fiscal year 21, we built 420,000 for the painting of the water tower. And that was part of that number. And obviously we haven't spent that yet.
Shouldn't that then be carried forward to 22?
We plan on spending it in fiscal year 21.
So we still plan on doing it in 21. Got it. Okay.
Correct.
All right. Thank you. And then down under the total debt service, I noticed only halfway through FY 21, we basically had reached our budget. And yet we got a half a year to go. And then we're only budgeting 585,000 in 22. Any comments on that?
Yeah, it's based on the timing of the payments. We've made all the payments for fiscal year 21. For 22, it's a lot less than 21 because we paid a $1.3 million bond off in fiscal year 21.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Larry. Charlie?
I just have one big picture question. I'm kind of surprised that no one else has raised it, so maybe it's out of place here. But with all the work, the discussions we've had about having to do maintenance on these filters and this ongoing problem that we're facing, shouldn't that possibly be reflected somewhere in the budget as something that we're saving for or preparing for?
It would be budgeted in the treatment plant in terms of the filters.
Oh, okay. That's the answer.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
got
then
it.
there is capital expenditures that are built in.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. That's it for this budget. We have a water park budget next. Holly, you got some overview for the council to
Yes.
look at here?
Yep, sorry, let me just get to the page.
Yep.
Okay, so key messages for the water park budget is that we've maintained our town and county benefits. We've heard from our residents, and it was very important to them that we maintain some sort of closed days for town and county only. So the park will continue to be closed on Monday, town and county only on Tuesday and Wednesday. Capacity restrictions, we're factoring in 350 guests. And I apologize, there's an error on this slide. It's actually 25% of the normal capacity and not 30%. So that's taken into account in this budget. Overall decrease in expenses is 10%. The water park reserve now is funded with $782,000. This was established during this administration, also accomplishing town council goals. And we're going to use this money in the future to offset some of the loss due to the lower capacity restrictions. So we're expecting to use $68,322 of these funds. Mayor, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, yeah, good. Yeah, and before I hand it over to Dale, just to, I want to pat all you all on the back. 4 years ago, before this administration took over, we did not have a water park reserve fund. Zero, didn't have one. And we've been able to prudently, build that up to the number that it is now, some 786. And obviously, with these tough times, we need that. So I thank you on the call for that. And I hand it over to Dale. Dale, did you want to go over page 1 or just see if anybody has any questions on
Yeah,
page?
Mr. Mayor, if I could just make one comment about the reserves. As you can see on here, and Holly touched on, we could potentially need to use $368,000 in the reserve. The good news, as Holly and the mayor mentioned, we do have about double that in the reserves. But I want to point out in the reserves, keep in mind that number is budgeted that way to make the revenue match the expenses. So think of it as the worst case scenario, meaning based on timing, we may never need to dip into that much. That is a worst case scenario though, that we may have to have. But if you look at fiscal year 21, you can see as of yet, we haven't dipped in any of that reserve as of yet. We currently have about 435,000 in our check account. So, Mr. Mayor, that's my opening comment.
Okay, we'll go with the first page. I'll start with Charlie. Do you have any questions on page 1, Charlie?
No, I have an overarching question of consideration, which is, have we looked at providing any kind of PPE budget for the lifeguard staff? Thinking in a case of an emergency, if lifeguard staff have to take some sort of action, they're putting themselves at risk to do that. Have we considered that? Last year we were probably not thinking that far ahead, or maybe you were, but this year it seems like we have the opportunity to do that.
Yes, I would say that is included in the expenses listed here.
Okay, just out of curiosity, where?
Looking at income now.
Right.
I'm muted. Sorry about that.
Let's get a second page.
Okay, you want to wait till we get to the second page? That's fine.
Okay, we can do that. Okay, all right. Is that it,
Yeah,
Charlie?
yeah,
I'll move
that's
to
it.
Larry. Okay, Larry.
Yeah, under the daily admissions, and I know this is probably one of the most challenging budgets to try to deal with during this pandemic, knowing that our entire revenue stream is coming from people actually going to the water park. When I look at that daily admissions item, what I see is as of December 31st, we had only 137,529 against a budget of 750. And keeping in mind that with the water park reopening, I presume Memorial Day, we would only have really 1 month under the FY21 budget. So we're going to be way short of the budget in 21. I do see we reduced that budget to 559, but it almost strikes me as that seems to be very optimistic, given what it might look like for FY21. Any comments?
I think Holly can answer that one. We've talked about this a lot.
So Larry, you're concerned with the capacity between the calendar year and the next start of the fiscal year, or the close of the fiscal year, I'm sorry.
With the close of the fiscal year, June 30, that gives us basically 1 month, that being June,
Right.
for admissions under the FY21 budget. We're going to be way short of that, I presume, unless something truly miraculous happens. And therefore, it raises my question of, should we be optimistically expecting 559,000 in 21 when we might only end up, I don't know, I'll take a wild guess, 150, certainly under 200,000 of revenue in FY21.
Well, I think the main difference is that we are going to have some out of county guests at the park. And so that revenue is going to offset that loss.
I see.
So this
Okay.
calculation is based on, we have a rate change in there where it's increased some of those rates as well. So yes, I think that from the calculations and based on the capacity and guests that we would have there, we do believe we will reach that number if I'm answering it.
Truly understand the difficulty trying to project what our revenues might be in this year. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Greg?
Yeah, thanks. The 559 seems a little optimistic to me. If Holly and Town Hall is comfortable with that, I'm not, what can I say to that? I'm definitely worrying about next year as far as breaking even and by not using reserves. This year certainly provides safe services to town residents. So I don't have any questions, really. Thank you.
Thank you. Keith?
Yeah, thank you. Just a point of clarification to be sure I understand. So the incomes, the FY22 incomes are based upon the new rate schedule that was provided. Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. No additional questions.
Okay, thank you. And Derek?
Yeah, first thing I just want to pass on kudos for carrying forward the town and county only days on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. I think that's going to be received very well, and I'm glad we're going to carry that forward, even though it makes it a little more challenging. I think it's well worth it. So I do appreciate doing that. And then I'm not sure this is really a question, but I guess to Dale, the cost of goods sold. How come that's broken out like it is? It's just a number, the supplies. How come that's not included in the expenses in particular? Is there like a reason why it's broken out on its own? And then I assume it ties back to the retail sales
Correct.
income line, which was 175. So I guess we're looking at a net profit of just over 100,000 expected. But I guess, is there a reason why that line item is kind of sitting on its own in this budget?
Well, I can say going back to as far as 2016, it's the way it's always been. I thought it was something that town council wanted it set up that way, and that's the way we've continued. When I do it in our accounting system, it doesn't show that way, but we show it for illustration purposes on the spreadsheet.
Okay. I mean, that is a contract. I mean, we have that contract to provide the goods and services that come in, or those goods that come in for sale. I just didn't, if there was a reason why it was broken out separately. It's not.
But you're right.
Doesn't change the numbers, but I was just curious.
It's a direct correlation to that retail sales line.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. All right. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, let's go to page 2 and stay right with you, Derek.
No, I don't have anything on this page.
Alrighty. Keith?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay, Greg?
Repairs and maintenance. I'm certain Jay's been consulted, and as far as the projection is concerned there.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Larry?
And my question was sort of in that same category. It seems like over the last couple of years, we've had an awful lot of surprises of leaks and subsurface problems. Are we getting more confident that we have addressed them? Because 65,000 doesn't seem to be a whole lot to address some of those problems.
We've
I
made,
think, go ahead, Holly.
yeah, we've made significant infrastructure improvements in the last years, but I think Jay, do you want to speak on how you're feeling about the maintenance there in that aspect?
Sure, and I think every year there's going to be a few things that are atypical, that are minor. We did have several years there where we had some unexpected infrastructure problems, but we did take care of a lot of that with some money we spent a few years ago, proactively going in there, making accesses, hanging some piping. We had some known breaks last year that we already fixed this year. Matter of fact, I was over there today with Philo putting on the white coat So I don't anticipate everything we fix. I'm going to say we're fixing it right where we don't have to come back to it. So we're getting better, but there will be breaks and things in the future, but I don't see anything major at the moment. Of course, that could change, but I feel we're in better shape than we were, and the park is older, so that's a good thing.
Understood. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. And lastly, Charlie.
Just following up on my earlier question, is there a line item that sort of reflects some extra money? Is that where you're hovering now?
Yeah, sorry about that. So basically, any supplies that we're going to be purchasing for staff and would be included PPE would be under pool supplies. I realize the number is less than the previous year. However, a lot of the costs are decreased because we're open less. We have more people that we're kind of accommodating in the park. We received a lot of PPE free of cost to us through the CARES Act last year, and we have a lot of leftovers actually from the previous year. So I think we're set from that perspective, but it's a good point.
Great, thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Charlie. Okay, done with that. Let's do a council lightning round and begin with Charlie.
There was a Google ad that got a lot of press. I don't know if people saw it, and it's a great ad. If you didn't see it, I'd recommend looking it up, and it'll make you cry a little bit. And it's just based on the premise that the pandemic is behind us. They do searches and they start erasing parts of the searches as they go. You know, in our conversations, talking to you, Pat, and talking to fellow council members, looking at these decisions we're making about what the water park's going to look like this year and what the what we can do with special events. It's clear, that the pandemic isn't over. I think that ad was a little premature. So I encourage everyone to hang in there. We're getting close, and but don't jump the gun quite yet, and hang in there. And that's it.
Thank you, Charlie. Larry.
Two things. One, just to echo a little bit, Mr. Fink, one of the points that was made in a MML session that I participated in a while back when they were talking about the impacts of the pandemic was particularly related to budgets. And they were urging towns and everyone, you need, and I know we do this, I know Dale does this regularly, and Holly, you need to be looking at your budget on a regular basis, not every 6 months, but more often than that, to try to anticipate and notice any changes that are coming. So I'm sure we will continue to do that. I know we've done that in the past year. Other point I wanted to make is the Economic Development Committee is hosting a virtual meeting tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. It's as posted on the town meetings website. The purpose is to have an open discussion on opportunities for appropriate economic development in our town and to provide input to the comprehensive plan. So please join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Greg.
Yeah, to Councilman Fink's point, and really, I know it's on all of our minds with this pandemic. We really, and nobody knows, but we really may be at a 2/3 point here. Even if we're at a 3/4 point, we've got some marching to do. So I got my first shot this morning. So I just urge everybody to mask up and stay safe and get vaccinated. And looking forward to what should be a nice Economic Development Committee meeting tomorrow evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Keith.
Hey, thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to just remind people to be patient and be kind with each other. It's been a long, long year, and I know nerves are getting thin. And anyway, just when something's upsetting you, count to 10 and try to just put yourselves in other people's shoes, and again, be kind. We are going to have an opioid abuse awareness committee meeting April 22nd, 6 p.m. Hope you can join us for that. All right, bye.
Thank you, Keith. And lastly, Mr. Vice President.
Yeah, I just want to go back to the utility fund and just make a quick point. We didn't highlight it directly. We've mentioned it in other meetings, but you know, it's important. One of the important results of this budget is that the water and sewer rates are remaining constant. And that's due in large part to this body paying off past debt. And in one of the sheets that we have, we didn't show it tonight, but it shows that we paid off last year almost $1.8 million in past debt. And it's because of that we, you know, we can keep our rates amongst the lowest in the state and still invest in that infrastructure, you know, which is something that hasn't always occurred, you know, in this town. So, you know, I obviously am a little biased, but I think we're doing a lot of things right. And I just wanted to point that out, you know, that we're doing this for everybody. And I think everyone should understand that this is going to have, you know, lasting positive effects for our town. So I also want to just remind everyone, encourage everyone to get their vaccines and enjoy the spring, maybe catch a baseball game and just look forward to the summer. Take care, everybody.
Very well. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Night, everybody.
The ayes have it. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
All right.